So today I have the pleasure of being with my friend Mike from Canada, originally from Canada. And we're sitting outside Mike's coffee house, 1022 or 1022. I'm not sure how people say that. Well,
We usually call it 1022 coffee
1022,
house.
okay. And it's a different one in Thai, I guess. It'll be, what is it, Sib? Whatever it is. Sib,
whatever they want to go.
Whatever
Nung Sun Song Song Coffee House.
Exactly, exactly.
With the Thai accent.
That's the Thai version. Yeah, so this is, I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing this is the first dedicated bikers coffee house or cafe in Chiang Rai. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's the first. I know there's a few other places, but if you didn't go looking for them, you wouldn't find them type thing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Many people ask us, why 1022?
Okay.
And the simple answer for that is the road that runs along the side of our alley here, it's the 1022 route. Rural Route 1022.
Yeah, well, that's a good enough reason to call it that then, yeah.
And the history is a little bit funny, actually, because we've been open now for April 22nd. We opened on a 22.
Yeah, oh, okay.
And yeah, so the history is funny because we've been open a little over 8 months, almost 9 months now. But this place has existed for years. I think if you go on the Facebook page, it dates back to 2018, which is a little bit interesting because it was never a business until 8.5 months ago.
Yeah. So it was here as a coffee shop or how coffee
Well,
house?
it was just kind of a fun thing to do for Gun.
Okay.
So Gun was originally involved in another business as a partner in another business called Mach 1 Lights, which you can see over there. And there's branding of Mach 1 Lights and 1022 Coffee House. So Mach 1 Lights was a partnership, and they did aftermarket spotlights for motorcycles and custom wiring harness kits and everything like that. And there was another, a BMW technician who used to come here twice a month. He was from out of town and do service on BMWs. So that all happened here. And Gun was into motorcycles and coffee. And so she decided to put a little coffee bar in the house. And it was kind of a fun and cool place for people to come and hang out while they got their bikes serviced. So, yeah, it's, you know, it's a little bit funny because when we met, I'm into motorcycles and coffee as well. And, you know, when I first came here, I was like, you have a coffee shop in your house.
Yeah.
And she tells me the story behind it and whatnot, and you know, and I'm like, well, you're into motorcycles and coffee. I'm into motorcycles and coffee. Yeah. We should do something with this, you know? So, I mean, it didn't look anything like it looks now. She never had it open as an official business. And so we did some renovations and we bought some equipment and went to work on that and open it up. And
so when did you decide? Like a year, we're now in January 24 doing this little chat. And I guess it was probably about a year ago, was it? Beginning of last year that you decided to do this business? Or
yeah,
is it a bit earlier than that?
November 1st, I think, 2022.
Okay.
I went back to Canada for a couple months just to deal with some personal things back there and do a little bit of work. And we had decided when I come back, we're gonna get going on this. We're gonna make a go of it. So when I got back, I guess early January 2023, we started on it, and we started, you know, talking about what we want to do and the design and what kind of, you know, things we want to do, who we want to project to, you know, and different goals, right? So, I mean, obviously we created the coffee bar that's there, and Gunn had to go do some barista training. I actually did some barista training with her too.
Oh, really?
But I'm pretty terrible at it. And this is Thailand. I can't be a barista.
Oh, no, not officially.
Not officially at all. Like, for all intents and purposes, this is not my shop at all.
No,
it's Gunn's shop. This is her business.
Not without a work permit, and even with one, you can't own the majority of the business.
Well, yeah, I mean, even if I were to get a work permit, I mean, let's face it, we're a small shop out of our house, right?
Yeah.
If I were to have a work permit and working, you'd need 4 Thai employees. And, and that just wouldn't
make sense.
It wouldn't go here, right?
Yeah.
Flies. Yeah, so she's essentially a one-woman show here, right? She's a barista, she's a cook, she does it all, right? And I'm just kind of helping, you know, manifest a dream, so to speak, right? And not just her dream, but this has been a dream of mine for, oh man, a long time, you know.
Back in Canada, you mean? Or
back in Canada, and it actually stemmed from a holiday I went on in San Francisco, USA. I went and sought out while I was on a vacation, and I had my daughter with me, who was at the time, I think, like 3 years old. And we went and sought out a few motorcycle themed places, because that's what I do everywhere I go. And we went to this little shop called Moto Java. And it was a little tiny coffee shop with a actual shop next door. And in the front of the shop, they had used motorcycles for sale, a small showroom. And in the back, they had a workshop. Motorcycle mechanics, you could go and take your bike there, get it serviced, and next door they had the Moto coffee shop that you could go and hang out at, have a bite to eat and a coffee while your bike got an oil change or whatever you were getting done. Which was super cool to me. And I don't know if you've been to San Francisco or not.
Many decades ago.
Right. And I'm from Vancouver, Canada, which
up the coast.
Right up the coastline, right? And they're very similar cities in a lot of ways, right? So obviously California has a little bit better of a riding season than us, but you know, there are bikes everywhere, and I'm chatting with the owner, and you know, I was just blown away. I was like, man, why don't we have something like this in Vancouver? Well, why we don't have something like that in Vancouver is because of the cost of doing something like that, right? The rents are expensive.
Property
everything
is really wild now.
But this Moto Java idea, man, it just kind of turned into like, man, I would love to do something like this for the moto community, right? And anyways, life happens and gets busy, and you kind of forget about those pipe dreams, so to speak, right? So years later, I'm riding home from work on my bike, and I'm gonna go see a friend at his shop in Vancouver, and I ride by and I see this sign on this building that's been vacant for a while, and it's a motorcycle coffee shop that's being put together. I stop, and the owner comes out, and I'm like, hey, what are you doing here? He tells me he's gonna open up a motorcycle cafe. Cool, right on. So that happened, and it was cool, and the idea was it was going to be a motorcycle cafe with a shop next door, but the premise of the shop was people could come in, rent space, rent tools, and do work on their own bikes, which is fantastic for people that, say, live in condos and are like kind of stuck with the bylaws of the stratas that can't work in their underground parking lots and stuff like that. You got a space to work. Fantastic idea. Well, again, the cost of putting this all together, the guy lasted about 6 months before he had to shut down. And since I've been in Thailand, another place opened up that I've never been to, but I've seen all my friends go there. Again, gone because of the cost of rents, and just the overhead is pretty astronomical in Vancouver, Canada, right?
I guess there's the two extremes. If you look at a place like Vancouver in Canada and Chiang Rai in Thailand, you're at two extreme ends of the cost spectrum.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah.
the difference in what it costs to do things, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, in Thailand, most things are a lot cheaper, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, fast forward to, like, I don't know, we met in 2022.
That was a funny story too, wasn't it? I seem to remember.
It is a funny story, and it's, I mean, it's kind of a story of fate. I mean, that's kind of how I feel about it anyways. It's very fateful for me. Because I've been traveling back and forth, living in Chiang Mai, and traveling back and forth from Canada to Chiang Mai for about 5 years.
Yeah.
Renting bikes and whatnot. And in 2022, I finally pulled the trigger and bought a bike. And, oh, here's a friend of ours.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I bought a bike. And I mean, I've ridden all over the north of Thailand, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
So as I was on a tour up here in Chiang Rai, Gunn and I matched on online dating app.
Okay.
But the funny thing is, we never met because I was on tour. I was here for one night and gone the next morning. So we chatted via text through the dating app for a little while, and then exchanged line app and chatted through that, right? And I was riding around and then back to Chiang Mai and riding other places. So it took a long time before we actually met in person the next time I was up back in the Chiang Rai area on the bike again.
Yeah.
And then when we met, she picked me up at the hotel because it was raining. And I get in the car, and it was very quickly I realized, well, you don't
she was
really
much quieter than
you don't really speak much English. Yeah, so, and she's a shy girl and not very confident in the English that she had. But at the time, I was here on an education visa. So I was learning Thai.
Yeah.
My Thai wasn't great, but it was good enough with a little bit of English that she knew and the Thai that I knew. We could have a conversation. We went out on our first date. Yeah. Went to a restaurant, and they had live music and whatnot. And it was actually a fantastic evening, you know. And then the next day we met up again and went for breakfast, and she took me to Doi Chang and showed me around a little bit there. And then I was gone again on another motorcycle trip, and we didn't meet for a while. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so the funny part of that story, and I think I've told you this before, is that she swears that she told me she was using a translator while we were texting. I don't remember her ever telling me that. So whether she did or not.
Anyway, it worked out in the end.
I don't know. It worked out in the end. And this is why I say, like, it's fateful for me, because long before I ever met Gunn, I had this, I would have loved to open a motorcycle coffee shop. Yeah. And then when we met, I had still never been here before, and she, we were texting, and she would show me pictures when I asked her what you're doing, and she would send me pictures of the property here, and I said, wow, it's so nice. Where are you? And she's like, oh, I'm at home. My house is kind of like a coffee shop. And then, so the first time I ever came here, I was blown away. I was like, wait a minute, your house isn't kind of like a coffee shop. Yeah. You have a coffee shop in your house. Yeah. And that's where we went from there. Is like, have you ever been open as a business and whatnot? And she said, no, I like coffee shops. So I decided to put one here as a fun thing to do while people come with their motorcycles. So she was into motorcycles and coffee. I am into motorcycles and coffee. It was kind of a perfect match, right? Yeah, yeah. And before we ever opened a coffee shop, that's what we would do, is we would get together and we would get on the bike and go check out different coffee shops. Yeah. Now we have one.
Yeah.
And we still do that. We're closed every Tuesday, and Tuesdays are ride days for us. And what do? We get on the bike, and usually we end up at a coffee shop somewhere along the way just to check them out, because we still love doing it, right?
Why not? Yeah.
You know, it started out as a passion project, and it's kind of snowballed into something bigger, right? For bikers by bikers. Is kind of
and
the
you've got,
theme
I mean, we'll look at the, I'll take a little clip on the camera of your board. You've got a nice board at the entrance of the cafe with a whole list of all the nationalities you've of the bikers you've had come here. Yeah. And it's getting longer and longer every day, and more and more countries on that list. And
the numbers on the next to those countries that they keep growing too, and it's a super fun thing, and man, the feedback we've got from that idea has been spectacular. Everybody loves it. And guys that see it on social media that have never been here before, and they don't see their country up, they're like, oh, I'm going to come put this country on, or we're going to add these numbers. And, you know, so it's been super fun that way, right? And it's also interesting to look going, you know, I'm surprised that ABC countries aren't there yet. And then you see other countries, you're like, wow, you had someone from here come? Like, it's incredible, right? So that's been a fun thing to do, just to see all the different kind of people from everywhere. And, you know, these are all guys that are riding in Thailand.
And you've got, I mean, I'm sure you got some stories there too. So you've got a mix of obviously people like me who are very much obviously not local Thai, but living locally. You've got that mix of, like, I guess you call us resident expats. But you've also had some people doing tours coming up from other places. I think, guess places like Malaysia coming up here.
Both, both expats from other provinces and from neighboring countries as well, right? So, I mean, I think our first kind of group of out-of-towners was a group of guys from Buriram who belonged to Isan Riders group. And these 5 guys from Buriram came in, and you know, it was great to have them as our first kind of taste of people on tour.
And were they were Thais,
No, they were all expats. So Brits and Australians. I think maybe one Irish guy, I can't remember fully. But so that was our kind of first. You never know what you're going to get here.
That's how it is. We're in Thailand.
That is how it is. But so to that point, we had, and again, to the point of how we get all different walks of life and riders on every different thing you could think of. We had a guy from Malaysia show up, and he was on an X-Max 250. Rode up from Malaysia.
That's a long way to go on a scooter.
250cc scooter, right? Which is incredible,
Why not?
And why not? And then we had some riders from Singapore.
That's right. I remember now.
I think you met them that night. We went and met them for beers.
They're getting married
that night.
They're getting married now. They get their visas in time.
And so we've been talking to them, and that's another thing. Like, a lot of our customers that come, they turn into our friends. You know, we've got a lot of regulars who live locally in the surrounding Chiang Rai area. That they come here every 1, 2, 3 weeks, some of them, right? And like I said, all different walks of life, ride all different kinds of bikes. And that, you know, it's one of the things I love about Thailand. The term biker doesn't, you know, in Canada or the Western world, you use the term biker and you picture some guy in leather jacket on a Harley and, you know, kind of rough around the edges. Here, that doesn't really apply, and I love that, because if you ride on anything on two wheels, you're considered a biker here, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's, you know, a Honda Click 125 or your Harley Davidson or your Royal Enfield or my
your
BMW, doesn't matter, right? And you know, as you know, riding in Thailand is a little bit of a different ball game to other places in the world, right? So we all have the same risks, and we're all out there on the roads, and there's, I mean, coming from Canada, there's a bazillion more bikes on the road than where I'm from. And the riding, I mean, we've got a shorter riding window, right?
Yeah, that's it, And you were riding, I think, turn that off. You were riding big bikes. You had a Harley, wasn't it, back in Canada?
Yeah, so that was my last big bike that I had there, but I've had all kinds. I was on Japanese cruisers to start. I've had 4 Hondas, 2 Kawasaki's, 2 Suzuki's, and a Harley. I actually just recently sold my Harley in Canada, and now I'm left with 1 bike back there, which is an old school V-Strom 1000.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's sitting in my brother's garage, and do I sell it or not? I don't know. Won't get much money for it, so if I sell it, I might kick myself later if I go
maybe
back
this
to
time
Canada.
of year, I mean, in January in Canada, it's not exactly riding season, so probably better to wait a little bit if you
Well, that
if you
one's
can.
my winter bike.
Oh, your winter bike,
Yeah. Because on the west coast of Canada, you don't get snow that much, and when you do, it doesn't last all that long, so I typically ride year-round, right? If there's not snow on the ground, I ride.
Yeah, because that's one of the great features of this country, of course, is it's pretty well a 12-month riding season. You know? It's not like Europe or lots of the States or whatever, where you've got a, like you said, a pretty small window, short window.
Yeah, for sure.
Here it's 12 months.
Yeah, and here, I mean, we get our rainy season. But
there's no
the
big
nice
deal,
thing
really.
here, I come from Vancouver, where it rains 8-9 months of the year,
and it rains all day probably sometimes.
But when you're wet there, you're also cold. Here, when you're wet, you're only wet. And then once it stops, you dry in half an hour.
You get a warm breeze, like a hairdryer breeze blowing you dry.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, so you've been coming to Thailand for some time now? Yeah.
My first trip to Thailand was 2016.
Okay, not that long ago.
Not that long ago, no. There's definitely a lot more seasoned veterans in the game than me around, for sure.
Yeah.
But my first trip, I didn't even come to the north. I went Bangkok and south to the islands just to check it out, as I've never been to Asia before.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So the next trip,
so that was a big, like an eye-opener, a big experience for you?
Oh, absolutely, man. Just everything about Thailand, right? The food, the people, the weather, the culture. How can you come here and not fall in love with the place? You know, it's just fantastic.
Yeah.
So on the next trip, I decided, well, I need to see the north part of this country. So when I came here, I started thinking, well, I should check into what the motorcycle scene is like here. And so I started kind of playing around with Google, and I quickly found out that northern Thailand is a place that people come from all over the world to ride motorcycles. So I started looking at maps and reading blogs and doing all this stuff. And when I got here, I kind of had an idea what I wanted to do. Rented a Versys 650 was the first bike I rented here, and I had a paper map with me, and I set off for the Mae Hong Son Loop. And man, like, as your first riding experience in Thailand, to do the Mae Hong Son Loop, it was just, you know, I went from, like I said, falling in love with the place on my first visit to going, one day I will live here.
Yeah. That happened quite quickly.
It happened very quickly, for sure, you know. So after doing that, and then doing a little bit more riding around, man, I started coming here every year. Yeah. And the trips got longer and longer, and it was always with the purpose of getting a motorcycle and going exploring. Yeah. And then obviously over the years you meet more people and whatnot. In typically I didn't ride with people. Most of my riding was done solo.
Yeah.
Obviously, I always kept that paper map with me, but I kind of got into looking at things digitally and looking for more landmarks to go check out, different temples, different, you know, points of interest, waterfalls, whatever the case might be, right? Yeah, so I was coming every year for the sole purpose of riding motorcycles.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, like I said, the trips just kept getting longer and longer, and the years go by, and I got to live here, right? The plan wasn't actually to live here this quickly, but with you know, things that happen in life,
things moved along.
COVID, work, things that happened with COVID.
Yeah.
I was in a serious motorcycle crash in 2020.
Okay. Where was that? Back in Canada?
That was back in Canada. So that was it's one of those hindsight, you know, is 2020 sort of situations where I was actually kind of quote unquote stuck here when COVID first happened.
Okay.
I was going to travel around Asia and go do a bunch of riding in other countries. But by the time I got my ride done in Thailand, COVID was in full effect, and you could still travel a little bit, but it was uncertain if you could come back or go to the next country and this and that. So I hunkered down in Thailand because I knew people and I knew the language a little bit. So it was a comfortable place to be, right? And we all sat around going, oh, this will blow over. So I thought I'd wait it out. Wrong.
So you were here basically the whole, a whole sort of so-called lockdown phase?
No. So I went home when, I was here during the beginning of the lockdowns.
Okay.
But when they actually, like, when the world shut down, I went home, and I was lucky to, well, lucky. I was lucky to even get home, because if I would have waited another 3 days,
you might
I wouldn't have been able to get home. I went home to Canada on April 1st, 2020, and the world was shut down. It was like I was on an international flight to Canada, and there were maybe 20 people on the plane, which is, I've never seen anything. And you'll probably never see anything like that again.
Hopefully not.
Yeah. It was pretty incredible. So I got home to Canada, did my 2 weeks quarantine, and then 2 weeks later had a very serious crash on my bike. And yeah, it came very close to death.
So were you in hospital after that?
I was in the hospital for 1 week, and I had, all on the left side of my body, I had a shattered shoulder blade. The x-ray technician said it looked like a spider web, basically. I had 10 broken ribs, 7 in the front, 3 in the back, and one of them went into my lung, and basically had to have over 1 liter of blood drained out of my lung. So yeah, I was in the hospital for a week during COVID with no visitors, which really sucked.
That's fun,
So I spent a lot of time looking on Craigslist on my phone, and the nurse comes into my room to check on me, and she says, "Oh, what are you watching?" And I said, "Nothing. I'm looking for a new motorcycle." And she thought I was crazy, and I said, "Well, mine's kind of fucked up." So I'm gonna need a new one when I get out of here. So yeah, I bought my Harley Road King. I think I was a week or 2 out of the hospital. I rolled that thing. Well, a friend of mine rolled that into my garage for me because I couldn't ride and I could barely walk at the time. And yeah, people thought I was pretty crazy at that point. But that was all about a mentality of motivation, right? I'm going to have this bike in my garage, and I'm going to go and look at it and tinker with it as much as I can, and motivate me to get back on a bike, because pretty much I don't want to know a life without motorcycles.
Exactly, yeah. But you certainly found the right spot to continue that passion anyway here.
Absolutely.
Okay, we've got that speculation I was just indulging in here. That would be a great idea to if you could add a professional, like a workshop here to your location.
Yeah, and as you know, it used to be a workshop, right? Going back to the pre-COVID days with Guns Partnership, Mach 1 lights, which unfortunately died with COVID, essentially, right? But yeah, I mean, I've said it to everybody who will listen, is this is a place for bikers by bikers.
Yeah.
You know, there's lots of all around Thailand kind of biker themed places to go to, restaurants, bars, coffee shops.
Yeah.
But as someone who's traveled around Thailand, I go to a lot of these places and they're cool. I mean, the design is cool, the decor is cool, and biker stuff everywhere. But the owner's never around.
Yeah.
You never get to see him. And quite frankly, the staff that are working there when you go there, they don't really care that you're on a bike. They don't know anything about bikes.
No.
They couldn't help you, you know, find routes and whatnot. And that's one of the things that, you know, I love doing when the bikers roll in here, especially from out of town. The local guys know where to ride, but guys come in from out of town and they've never been here before, or they've been here before, but they only know what they know, the popular things that you see on Google and whatnot. And I'll go back to the group that came in from Buriram. They'd never ridden here before. They sat here and we chatted for a couple hours, and I asked them, like, how long are you gonna be in town for? Oh, a few days. Got any day trips planned? Yeah, we're gonna go up to the Golden Triangle. Okay, how you getting there? We're just gonna go on Google. And I told them, no. Let me plan a route for you, right? Because Google Maps is just gonna throw you up the number one straight up to the Golden Triangle highway. And back, you know? It's gonna be all straight, flat, and traffic lights and whatnot. I put a route together for them up through the mountains, Doi Tung, Pahi village, down into Mae Sai and over. And the guy messaged me the next day and he says, Mike, we've been on the road for 8 days and this is by far the most fun we've had on this trip. So that's what I want to see, you know? I want to help people. And now we sell Mr. David Unkovich.
Oh, his maps.
GT rider. We sell his maps.
Okay.
So if someone wants to buy one of his maps, they can get those here. Yeah, what else? I mean, like, and I go riding with customers.
Well, we did a ride, like, when was it, 3 or 4 days ago? Was it on Monday? I can't remember now. I lose track of time.
Was that Monday?
A few days ago, anyway.
I can't remember. Anyway,
we did a nice little trip along the Myanmar border.
Yeah, so again,
Pahi
that was
village.
going up to Doi Tung, Pahi village and whatnot. And that little ride is, you know, it's essentially in our backyard.
Exactly.
Right?
It's just around the corner from here. And this is the great thing. And you were saying after that ride, that was such a nice day out. There were just 5 of us, but it was a nice little group. And you were saying that you'd like to start doing that on a regular basis, and that's something else that you could do here.
It's one of the ideas that we want to get into as well. So I think I mentioned it before. We're closed every Tuesday because we're riders too, and we want a day to ride, right? Can't be open every day. We'll never ride, and that's not an option for us. So every Tuesday, Gunn and I like to go out riding. And we thought, you know what? Once a month, we should get into that, and that's something that we plan on putting together this year. Is 1022 Tuesdays, or give it a name or something like that, where we invite people through our Facebook page. Hey, if you want to ride, this is going to be the ride. This is where we're going to meet. And we'll see how many people we can get to do little social rides like that. The nice thing about the ride we did the other day, it's yourself, who you live here, our friend Tawan, who happens to be just sitting over there right now. He'd never ridden those roads before. And our other friend from England, Graham, who he's never ridden a motorcycle in Thailand before. And you saw the smile on his face all day long, right? He couldn't believe himself, you know? And so, I mean, things like that, I love it, you know? And the great thing about this shop is that a lot of our customers have now turned into friends. And bringing people together too. We did a party in October, and we called it Moto Social Sunday. And
I was here.
Yeah, you were here
You had
too.
the yard was packed.
It was complete, music, live barbecue music, going, and I think, you know, throughout the course of the day, coming and going. I think there must have been 50 plus bikes show up here that day.
It was busy.
And it was so much fun.
Yeah.
And you bring people together. I've got 3 regular customers who are all from Germany.
Yeah.
And before that day, none of them had met each other. And now they're buddies, all of them, which is fantastic. That's the kind of thing I want to do.
Yeah.
You know, yes, we're a business. Yes, we're a coffee shop. Let's be honest. North Thailand needed another coffee shop like it needs a hole in the head, man. But
that's one thing there's no shortage of. But
I wanted to bring.
But the biker connection, that was the difference.
Yes, so the biker connection, and again, it's not that Thailand doesn't have them.
Yeah.
But I don't think they have the unique dynamic that we're trying to bring. That's kind of our vision: is bringing people together.
Yeah.
For bikers by bikers.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
If someone comes from out of town and they're on a road trip, they need a little bit of lube on their chain. I'll throw it in my little shop here and we'll get them going. If you need a top up on oil, talk to us, you know, and we'll help you out. And this is what bikers do for each other, right?
Yeah.
I think anybody who's ridden around on a motorcycle throughout the years can tell a story about where they might have been in trouble or in a bind or something where another biker helped them out.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what we do, right? It's just, Or you see a biker on the side of the road and you stop to see if they're okay. Is help on the way? Can I help you? Or something like that.
Yeah.
We've all been there, right?
Yeah.
So we want to kind of incorporate that mentality into our shop. All bikes welcome. I don't care what you ride. If you're on 2 wheels and you show up here, you're a biker in my eyes. Yeah.
That's great philosophy, I think. Yeah. I wish you luck anyway, Mike, because you haven't even been open for a year yet, and it's doing really well, I think, you know?
Yeah, I mean, could it be better? Of course.
Everything could always be
When we first opened, there were a lot of dead days, Patrick. Days where we wished we had customers.
No, but
and now we've got people rolling in every day. Every day we have someone rolling in. And it's fun too, because we talked about the different walks of life and all the different countries on the board there. When you see Thailand, the number is huge, and they're not all bikers. We get a lot of local people that show up just curious. And now some of those local people are also now regular customers. Come every day.
And one thing I'll do with this video is on the YouTube page, put obviously your Google Maps reference.
Oh, that's great.
People, you know, who are watching this now, have been watching it and listening to us talking, know where to come. Yeah. You know, so I'm hopeful that some of the people watching this video will be new customers for you.
Oh, we
too.
Appreciate that huge. And social media, Google is massive for us. Like, you know, most of the Thai locals actually. Facebook is huge for most of the foreigners. They come here, they see our Facebook page, and they might have heard about us through other people who ride around in Thailand. And wow, some weather coming in on us here. Life on the farm, huh? But yeah, so, you know, a lot of the foreigners that come in, most of them, where have you heard about us? Through Facebook, through Instagram, whatever social media, right? Most of the Thai people, Google. And they see Google reviews. Google reviews are so helpful for us. So we appreciate everybody who takes that extra effort after they leave here to give us a review and, you know, and let other people know about us. It's super helpful. It's great.
That's the way it goes these days, isn't it? It's the social media way.
And 2024 just passed the new year, and we're looking at doing other things. You know, we've got the farm, and we've got 65 chickens in the back. Gun sells fresh eggs every day. Few of the local restaurants are our biggest supporters and customers in that. And I'm telling you, since opening the coffee shop, customers come in and they say, wow, you have fresh eggs from the farm every day. And now we can't even keep up with the egg sales. It's crazy. Like, well, I could build out that chicken coop and double our head count, and we would be fine with that.
That's a good cue. Let's go and have a look if you don't mind.
Sure, we can do that.
Tour of the chicken coop.
We can.
I think you said it's time to let them out of the.
Yeah, we'll let the chickens get some exercise.
Yeah,
and you can see
free range.
I've sort of built a quasi, area for them, but it's in the process of being built out because eventually the plan is to expand and increase the head count of the chickens because that's a testament that things are getting better because
it's a good sign.
Before that, what we have now was more than enough. What we needed. Now it's not enough.
Okay, well that's a good sign.